bold, brave, happy, sad, strong, scared, positive, driven, motivated, persistent. That's how I felt on any given day this year. I've instigated a tremendous amount of change for myself and my kids this year. I had a studio that I loved. I was doing great work there. I enjoyed it. I closed it. I was married for 15 years to a man that I love. I'll always love him. I asked for a divorce. I was surrounded by friends and family. I was very comfortable where I was. I moved away. So, why? I was fine. I was doing okay. I was efficient. I was pretty good at what I was doing. One day I was at a party, wine in hand, and a friend says, "How you doing, Robin?" I said, "I'm fine, I can't complain." She goes, "You know what fine means, don't you?" I said, "I don't know, maybe not." She said, "Fine means feelings inside not expressed." I gotta get some stupid friends. My friends are too smart. That hit me pretty hard because it was the truth. Truth hurts. It resonates with you. And at that moment, I realized I was just sleepwalking through my life. Steve mentioned that a little bit earlier. So you see, a couple of years before that, my marriage hit a turning point. The trust went out the window. I was devastated. I was broken. I lost something. And when you lose something, your first instinct is to get it back. So, we had made a commitment. We decided we're going to do this. We're going to get this back. We're going to find what we lost. Neither of us were very comfortable with the idea of failure, so we set a course and we were going to stick to it. And in the rise from that fall in my marriage, I thought I had woken up. But in reality, I was still sleepwalking. See, there was this incessant chatter in my mind all the time. A revolving conversation of snarky comments. A lot of sarcasm. I'm pretty sarcastic by nature. I'm very comfortable with sarcasm. But even this was even a little over the edge for me. So that voice in my head, it was like that girl in your dorm freshman year who never stops talking. And she gives the worst advice in the world. But you listen to her for some reason. Right? You think, well, she talks all the time. She must know what she's saying. So, I had that going on all the time. So to drown it out, I literally turned up the volume. I walked around with headphones all the time. I had music in my ears and I was doing chores, talk radio, stupid television shows at night, books to fall asleep. The only place I was really felt like myself was with my time in the Gray Institute, at work. It's where I really felt the most comfortable, but in my home, I wasn't myself anymore. I went through the routines, but I was kind of numb. And I think many of us do this. We're so busy with doing, human doing. We forget about human being. So to illustrate how I sort of think about this whole sleepwalking through life thing, I recently read this study. A couple of researchers were doing some work in memory, and they took this man with chronic amnesia to a hedge maze, one of those really intricate hedge mazes. And they asked him if he'd ever been there, and he said, nope. So they gave him a whistle, and they said, when you get to the middle of the maze, blow the whistle. We're going to time you. So he made his way to the middle of the maze, blew the whistle. They timed him. They brought him back the very next day. Remember, he has amnesia. So they brought him back the very next day, same spot. Have you ever been here before? He said, nope. So, again, they gave him the same instructions. They gave him a whistle. They timed him till he got to the middle of the maze. Day after day after day, they did this. Every day, he never remembered that he was there. But one thing changed. He got faster. Each day, he got faster, more efficient, better, even though he didn't even know he was practicing. We've all heard practice makes perfect, right? 10,000 hours of practice, at anything you become an expert. And I'd always thought of that as, like practicing a musical instrument or a sport. You need to put in that 10,000 hours to become the expert. But what I realized was that you can also be practicing things that you don't even know that you're practicing. Things that really aren't quite as useful. Now, 10,000 hours of practice equates to roughly 10 years of practice. So, you're doing other things too. But 10,000 hours of dedicated practice, that's about 10 years. And that's about how long I'd been practicing my sleepwalking routine. Just doing. Never really being. So, I decided to practice what I preach with my clients all the time. I was on this stage a year ago. I did a talk called Oh Behave. It was about how changes in behavior, simple habit changes, can transform your life or transform whatever it is you're going to do. Whatever it is that you're trying to get. So, I'd been practicing this with my clients for years. I knew this from a physical therapy point of view. Then I felt a little bit encouraged because I know how to practice. So I decided to practice. I changed some habits. So while I was generally busy doing all these things, doing, couldn't fall asleep at night because that stupid roommate in my head, I would read a book to fall asleep. So I figured if I need to do the opposite of that, if I need to change my habits, I'll read a different kind of book during the day. So one day, I dropped the kids off at school. I wasn't working that day, and I didn't have much to choose from with much spirituality or meaning on my bookshelf, so I found a book that Anita brought up earlier, Four Agreements. My uncle had given it to me maybe 15 years before that. I politely said thank you, and I put it on the bookshelf. I didn't really think I needed that. So I pulled it out, I sat down, and I read it, and I cried, and I cried, and I cried, because every time I'd ever read a quote like that or some kind of inspirational thing before, I was very quick to say, oh, that would be good for you. That would be good for my husband. Oh, my mom needs this. My friend needs this. Never, ever, ever pointing it back at myself. So for whatever reason that day, I read that book and I looked at myself and I realized I need to make some changes. So I decided to practice some things. I created a new morning routine. My kids usually get up around 7, so I was getting up right at 7 with them and just rushing into the day. And it was hectic, and it was a little crazy. So I set my alarm for 5. Now I get up at 5. I start with a glass of water, get the coffee brewing, do a little yoga. I choose from my now very extensive library of spirituality books. and self-help books, whatever you want to call them. Brene Brown, Michael Singer, Eckhart Tolle, all kinds. I have a whole list if you want one. So I pull one of those off the bookshelf, I read, I get cozy on my couch, and then I do a little journaling. So essentially, I create a space to check in with myself. Funny, that behavior change thing, that works. So if you want to change something in your life, change some behaviors. Immediately what happened was that annoying girl in the dorm, she moved out. She wasn't there anymore. Eckhart Tolle, he puts it in a really succinct way. He says, the awareness of the thought is you, not the thought itself. Right? You're the one aware of the thoughts. And when you realize that, it's like, poof. It really frees you up when you realize the world doesn't revolve around you. Takes a lot of pressure off. Took me about 40 years to figure that out, but it's all right. It takes you from human doing to human being. Letting go of yourself is the simplest way to get close to others. And I believe that we are all hardwired for these things right here. We're hardwired for connection. You can't really connect with people if you're living inside your head all the time. You can't be with them. You're not there. You got 700 other things going on in your mind. You're rehearsing a conversation you might have with someone else later. You can't really connect. We're hardwired for redemption. Essentially, every movie ever made, almost every book ever written is a redemption story. Right? We love it. It's the rise from the fall. So, not just to forgive those who hurt us, but most of all, to be empathetic and forgive ourselves. I mean, it's been said 1,000 different ways, but I like how Lady Julian of Norwich put it. She said, "First there is the fall, then you recover from the fall. Both are the mercy of God." Meaning. We are hardwired for meaning. I believe that there is a force, a power greater than myself, that I'm a part of it. I get to be a part of it, and it's a part of me. So in the midst of all this change, my girls and I have moved 3 times this year. I'm starting a new business with an old friend. The business is under the guise of fitness, but really, it's about creating a space for connection, redemption, and meaning. It's what we all need. So every morning when I do my routine, I'm thankful for those little hands on mine. I'm thankful for new love in my life, new passions that I'm exploring. Most of all, I'm thankful for that disruption, that kick in the ass that woke me up. Because it's taught us how to be brave and how to show up. That's it.